All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm really excited to talk about this training and just to talk about really, I want to talk about whatever's on your mind around it, that I will share. I'll share about this training. I'll share in a much bigger way about this industry, that how we work with people. There's some feedback. How we work with people, how different and amazing it is from anything else, and it truly is. I mean, this way of working with people as a change coach from this bigger understanding is so powerful. And every single year, I'm kind of seeing that myself more and more deeply. Like I knew it was good. And for me, I've been coaching since 2007. So even coming in with the tools and the understanding I had and starting to do this work, it was exciting. It was so fun. I could see people changing and really, really just seeing things in a different way, starting to feel more at peace with themselves. And I swear it's like every single year, not necessarily year, but when I look back, it's like along the way, it just keeps deepening and getting more expansive and better and better. And people, I don't know what's going on with you all, us all, but like people are just ready for this and are seeing things in a really deep way. Whereas even just a few years ago, there was so much more of like, help me fix this, help me get my life the way I want it to be, which is fine. That's how it looks sometimes. Even that has changed so much. There's so much openness to, I'm not sure what I want or need to be happy. I just want to be happy. I just want to be at peace, which is awesome when people are coming to us with that level of openness and that level of like, I don't know, just guide me and show me. And they see so much more that way. So it's incredible. There's so much that's just changing in a really positive way in this field, and especially again, as in the way that we work with people. So I'm going to, let me put up some slides real quick and you guys tell me if you can see these. Okay. All right. You can see all that. Okay. Cool. Okay. I'm going to go through a few slides as we talk about this. So again, in this webinar, I'm going to talk a little bit about how change coaching is different from everything else, about how we can be in this as a profession, and we can also bring this to our own lives for sure, but any work that we do. So people come through this training and just want to learn more about this understanding in order to use it in their work in business and healthcare and education, as a parent. I mean, there's so many ways for sure. A lot of therapists and other practitioners, people who are working with people in a area that's close to coaching, come through to deepen and get better at what they already do. So there's so many ways that this is really huge and amazing and life-changing. I will talk about the Change Coach training program that starts in January, and I'll kind of go through what's involved and what to expect in that. I do have 3 newly certified change coaches here who are going to share with you. And I chose them because they all have a slightly different story. So a couple of them were brand new to coaching, never coached a day in their lives, and they came through the training and have had some great experiences. Another one was an experienced coach, but kind of came through to add this to what she was doing. So they're all a little bit different. And they can, when they share their experience, they can kind of cover a lot of bases and answer a lot of questions that you might have. And then I'll stay on as long as we need to. So I'm guessing this will run about 90 minutes, but we're recording it. We'll send the recording to everyone after. So if you need to drop off at any point, feel free, and we'll send you the recording today. But I will stick around, for as long as there are still questions. All right. Okay. So again, I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but this training in this webinar there's a few people that kind of tend to really come through this training. Many of them are people who have just been really impacted by what I share, what others share in this understanding. you've come through the little school of big change, or you've struggled with a habit or anxiety or depression, and you've read something or heard something or had a coach that coaches in this way, and it's really, really changed things for you. And so many of those people, I love when that happens. I mean, because we're ready. Like, we know it, we have, and that's myself too. Even though I started as a professional coach, I've had a ton of my own experience that really energizes me and kind of gets me, wanting to do this work as much as I do. So for those of you who are in that camp, that's awesome. Like, you've been impacted. And I know many of you never thought you would be a coach. It's just like been nowhere on your radar until you got really impacted. Or maybe some of you did, like maybe it was sort of out there, like maybe something that you might want to do at some point. And so we can talk more about that, but a lot of people do come through the training with no experience in sort of a helper field. But they just want to see more, either for themselves or so that they can share it with friends and family or in whatever work they're doing. Others are, like I mentioned, maybe therapists or counselors, or you're in this field in some way. Maybe you're a coach in a different tradition. You've had some coach training in a slightly different way of working. And then you've come across this, and this is, it's different, but in some ways it's not all that different. But the way it looks to me is it's just really, really deep. It's really simple. It's really fundamental. So if you are, like, let's say you're a coach and you use Byron Katie's work or some method, the Sedona method or something like that. What we do in change coaching, the way I see it is this helps us understand why those tools are so effective when they're effective. It helps give a foundation and just a basis. It kind of goes beneath all of that. And it helps us see what is always true of all people, no exceptions. And there are things that are always true of all people, no exceptions. It shows us what is true of all suffering. And there are things, very few, because this is very simple, but all suffering, no matter what, is us identified with and caught up in fleeting, moving, safe experience. You cannot find suffering that does not involve believing a thought and in some way resisting that. So when we start to look at these really, really basic truths that are behind all human experience, all of it, it's amazing because our work gets to be really simple and really deep. And then again, whatever methods you like or tools you like, fine, there's nothing off limits, but this is like the container for all of that. This helps ground everything in this really amazing, very deep, very simple understanding. So the other group of people that might be here now or that often come through the training are similar to the first. They've been really impacted by this understanding. And maybe they think, I don't think I ever want to coach. I don't want to do this professionally. I don't even care if I talk about it with my family. I just want to immerse. And the thing about the coach training is the way, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but the way that we come to do this work in the absolute easiest, best, most effective, deepest way possible is for us to wake up to this. Like, we have to see this as deeply as one can see this. And that's always evolving and changing. But we have to have a sense of what's true, and we need to know who and what we are beyond our thinking. And as we personally deepen in those things, coaching is easy. Coaching itself is just a conversation. I mean, there are things we teach around having that conversation in an effective way and holding space and all of that, but really, it's not that hard. What makes a really, really amazing, effective coach is your own grounding. So I think people have a sense of that, and so a lot of people do, maybe not like percentage wise, it's probably maybe 20 to 25% of any given training group who might come through and say, I don't think I want to do this as a coach, but I want to learn it as a coach because I know that's going to push me to see this as deeply as I possibly can. And they're right, it does. And what's kind of interesting is usually at least half of those by the time we get to the end of the training are like, well, maybe I do want to do it as a coach. So who knows? That may or may not happen. But that brings people in a lot. It's just the personal benefit. And so again, the training is for people who are completely brand new to coaching, but it's also people who are experienced. And I'd say probably about 70%, maybe 65 to 70% of any training group is people who are brand new that have never done this before. Maybe 30 to 35% are therapists or counselors or people who have worked with others. So let me say a little bit about how this is different. And I'm guessing that most of you have a sense of this already, if not a very deep sense of this, just to be here, that what we share is so different in a lot of really key ways. So people come to us as change coaches. They come to us with a problem. And just like me for sure, just like many of you maybe came to your coach or came to a book that you read or a video you watched saying, I have this problem and it's standing in the way of my peace of mind and my happiness. And I want this problem fixed so that I can be okay. And that is just the most normal thing in the world. That's absolutely how it looks. Absolutely how it looks. So people are coming to us saying, help me with my relationship, help me with my habit, help me with my anxiety, my depression, whatever. And we will help them with that. But we know that it's not just helping them with that issue. We know that that issue is just a symptom of a bigger misunderstanding. So we get to point to a much, much bigger, deeper place that is just incredibly helpful for all people to help them see that everything they are experiencing, every thought, every feeling, every behavior, all of their sense of identity, everything they think about themselves and who they are, that is all their psychology. It is coming up, being brought to life, feeling so true and solid and real and stable. And it's constantly changing. There is nothing solid or stable about how we feel, what we do, who we think we are. Nothing. And that's shocking because the stuff really feels stable, especially when it feels like it's a problem. You know, when you are suffering with something, you can't tell me my habit isn't stable when I've done it every day for the past 10 years or whatever, you know, or like that I am not this kind of person because I've seen evidence of that over and over again. And it feels so stable. So it's such a innocent, understandable misunderstanding. But we come to know this. We as coaches, we know what's really going on. And when we're working with people, we know, okay, it's not that you need a fix. It's not that we need to go into your psychology and move some things around and get you to think differently or feel differently. We're not working at that level of fixing or changing psychology. We're working at the level of helping them see it for what it is, helping them see that all things move and change completely on their own, and that they are not that moving and changing experience. And if you're a little newer to this, that might sound a little bit vague, but it's not vague. It gets to be very concrete and very obvious the more we immerse in this ourselves, that everyone is sitting in the middle of perfect mental health, zero exceptions ever. And there's this steady, constant stream, one flow of experience that's always arising that we just get identified with. So our work and these conversations that we have with people as change coaches are very deep and very rich, but they're also very, very common sense. Like this isn't about being in these big concepts, it's about being with a person in their life with them saying, look at this problem, tell me this isn't real. And us just showing them little by little how well they are and how their experience works. And in a way, we all know this already. Everyone on earth, no matter how horrible you feel, on some level, we have this sense that we're okay, or else we wouldn't even be trying to feel better. We wouldn't, we deeply know that this is our nature. I fully believe that. So as much as their mind might argue and their mind might think, oh no, I'm really lost and I'm really stuck and I'm different. And that's what all minds say. There's something in there that listens, there's something in what we're sharing, what we're pointing to that resonates so much for people. And that's part of what makes this work and this way of working with people easy and fun and just incredibly effective, because it's not so much on us. Again, our job as coaches is to see this ourselves and to be transformed ourselves as much as possible. And then we're just having a conversation and we're just pointing things out that we see along the way. And those things resonate with people and then they start to wake up to it. So it's really awesome. And I put this quote here, which is really, I think, just kind of the epitome of everything we're sharing here. The very famous Sid Banks quote, if the only thing people learned was to not be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. And I think this is exactly what we do here, is we help people not be afraid of their experience. So in the old days of coaching, people came to a coach and they said, help me meet this goal. Help me, lose weight, help me make my marriage better, help me do this and that. And people still sometimes come with those things, and that's totally fine. But this is not about goal attainment. It's not about abstinence or sobriety. It's not about doing certain behaviors or not doing other behaviors. It's about seeing that everything is okay right now and that you are okay right now. And as people lean into that and wake up to that and feel what's showing up, and this is so huge. If you're in the community, the Little School of Big Change community, or the recent course, or listen to the podcast, I've been harping on this like crazy lately. As we feel okay and we lean into what's showing up, resistance just melts away. Problems melt away. There's so much in being in this experience right here. So it's a very important kind of difference, I think, from help me get what I want to us knowing what we all want is peace of mind. And we're going to point them, to the source of that. And in the process of that, of course, goals are much easier obtained when you're not so caught up in thought. Relationships get better. Habits fall away when you don't feel like you need to avoid feelings. So they get what they want, but they get so much more than that too. So I kind of shared a lot of this already, but it's really about seeing that we have this health and well-being, and we are habit-free and anxiety-free and depression-free right now. And we're all identified with thought and feeling, and we think it's us and ours. And when people are on this quest to change their psychology, it just gets really messy and it just doesn't work. It's so amazing that we don't have to make life go our way. Our clients don't have to come to their coach and say, please help me make life go my way. It's not about making life go our way. It's about having the eyes to see what's already happening and what's already here that we just can't see or feel. And the only reason we're ever suffering or not seeing and feeling that in any moment is we're just identified with thought that tells us otherwise. And this is very clear upable. Like this is very, very changeable, very changeable. So much easier to change, so much more changeable than help me make life go my way. So much more, I mean, any day of the week, I would have an easier time working with someone who's in years of addiction or anxiety or depression than someone who comes and says, I absolutely have to run this marathon a year from today. Help motivate me to run a marathon. What? Like that's so limited and here and specific and driven by a thought. And again, if you want to run a marathon, wonderful. But when we look in a bigger direction and start there, anything that wants to happen just has a bigger chance of happening. So it's just a very different direction. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the training, and then I'll introduce our panelists and I'll go to some questions. So I know I'm sharing a lot, and especially in this part, when I share about the training, just know that all of this information is available. It's all on the page for the actual training, where you can go and get the full details. I'll share a link at the end where you can schedule a time to talk with me and we can look at all this. So just as you listen to this part, just see if you can get kind of a bigger picture sense of how this goes. That's really kind of all we're going for. So the Change Coach training itself, to me, it's the best training like this out there, primarily because there is so much interaction and support. And it's a relatively small group. It's a 6-month training. It starts in January, and it's 5 months of coach training. So 5 months of your own immersion, your transformation, watching a ton of coaching, watching me coach, watching the other trainees coach, doing a lot of your own coaching with feedback, with support. We have such a beautiful little container for that. I know sometimes that it would freak me out. It did freak me out when I was learning to coach. Like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna actually coach in this coach training. Like, yes, you're gonna have to do something that might feel a little new and hard and scary, and that's why we're here. But I tell you, I mean, the group, I don't know how, but the group that forms around this training every single year is just amazing, and they love each other and they stay in touch and they become like family. And when we're coaching with each other, we just kind of are each other, I mean, there's so much support, so much really loving and constructive feedback that I think all the insecurities start to melt away. So to me, this training is super special because first, for the first 5 months, I mean, it is all about you coming to live these simple truths and this way of seeing things. And then you just beginning to go out and have these conversations with feedback and support. And I don't know a ton about a lot of other coach trainings, but I know many of them, kind of mix in the whole thing with some how to coach, some business bits, some this, some that. And we do as well. We have business support, which I'll talk about. But really the January to May is primarily about helping you feel confident having these conversations and having conversations with people that will lead to their change. Because that's what we're here for. And so much of the business growth, I know that's a big thing on people's minds often, like, can I have a business at this? And how can I have a business at this? And again, we'll talk about that. But so much of that, honestly, is like, yes, you have to do things and there's things to learn and actions to take, but none of that is going to matter if you aren't having impact. So our grounding, our impact, our effectiveness at having these conversations with people and them resonating and hearing something and having things start to fall away and change for them. I mean, that's kind of obvious, I think. Like that is the best business course you could ever have, is to just be super effective and super good at what you do. And then, yes, there are other things about how to talk about what you do and have conversations that lead to clients and all of that. But this is why I think these first 5 months are, for me, why I just like to mostly focus on the actual work that we're here to learn. So from January to May, it's mostly that. And I say mostly because We have a forum where people ask any question that's on their mind at any point. And we do talk about business stuff. We have a little business workshop. We mix it in a little bit, but it's 98%, how to coach. So the training is centered around these 3-day live events, and they're all virtual. So everyone will be together. No one will be live. It's not that some are live and some are virtual. The whole group will be together on Zoom virtually for 3 days in the end of January, the end of March, and the end of May. And in those 3-day trainings, we do all kinds of stuff. We really, I'm looking at your grounding, where there's a little bit of teaching. There's a little bit of I have each of you on my mind and kind of seeing where your grounding is and helping each of you kind of see what you need to see to really live this. And then there's like a lot of coaching. So in January, I bring in people, I do full coaching sessions, and then we debrief those, we discuss them. In March and May, we do that as well, but we flip it a little bit so that it's mostly you guys doing the coaching. So the trainees are doing coaching sessions. And then, with feedback. And again, we play some games around it. We kind of swap in and out coaches, and it's very light and very supportive. But the purpose of that, again, is that by the time you hit the end of May and you've finished with the bulk of the coach training, you have coached. Like, you've done this, you've gotten feedback, you've gotten support, you've had multiple conversations. So you're ready to go if you're ready to go. Like, you will have what you need, as a solid foundation to go out and start having these conversations by May. So, okay. So in January, we start in the end of January, we have our first 3-day event. In February and March, part of the training, a pretty big part of the training, is that the trainees go through my course, the Little School of Big Change, and you go through it kind of as a coach trainee, which is what you would be. So you're watching the students in the school. Now, the students in the school, if you don't know, are people from all over the world, just everyday lay people who either have a habit or anxiety or an addiction or something that they want to change. So they are coming to this 6-week course for support with usually something pretty specific. And me and my other coaches that work in the school, we're guiding them. We're having 2 calls a week, and we're on a forum supporting them. So they're getting a lot of coaching, a lot of support, and you see so much happen. And again, I'm guessing most of you have been through that, but if you haven't, in 6 weeks of the Little School of Big Change, a lot happens. You see a ton. So to go through that as a coach trainee is awesome, because not only does that, again, contribute to your grounding and you getting to benefit from what's shared there and seeing this more deeply yourself, but now you're coming at it from the lens of what would I say? How would I handle that? What might I say to a person who raises their hand and has that question or wants coaching around this thing? So it's really cool. You get kind of a behind the scenes look at how that all works, including behind the scenes of how we run it, how I created it, because many of you probably, if you want to coach, you might want to create your own courses. You might want to do similar things. So in this training and beyond forever, nothing is I don't keep anything secret or you can ask me questions about anything. I will show you how I did everything that I've ever done. So you really kind of get that benefit as well. You get the coaching side, but also to see the ins and outs of how I've grown my business and how we run a course like that and all of those details. So the Little School of Big Change is a 6-week course, and that starts in February, runs through mid-March. So as part of the training, you'll be kind of keeping up with those classes and those students. And then we will talk as trainees. We'll have some calls where we talk about how that's going. In February and March, we also have a few other things. So probably roughly once a week, although maybe a little bit less. There might be some weeks off. We'll have some sort of call about once a week. And that might be a call to talk about the Little School of Big Change. It might be a coaching demo. So I have some other practitioners that I'm friends with come in and coach, and you guys can see them coach. Because again, that's really what we're here for. You watching coaching and you doing coaching. So they come in and they'll do some demos, which are really fun. There's a lot of different things. We just have some group calls to check in. So it's about once a week that there's some sort of call. Then in April, in March, we have our other 3-day. In April, again, we have some coaching demos, some group calls. We have a business workshop. So I do start to talk about the business stuff a little more there in April. And then in May, you have your final 3-day, and then you're eligible to become certified. So those 5 months, January through May, are really where, again, we're coaching and you're watching coaching and all of that. June is our business month. So we have a course called Build Your Business, and that runs throughout the month of June. And it's where we really hold your hand. My business team, I co-lead it with the people who are partners in my business. So like my business development manager, my operations person, they're part of this. And we help you set up an initial website if you don't have one. We do demos around having conversations with potential clients. We help with things like packaging and pricing. We talk about messaging. There's a lot there. But really, Build Your Business throughout the month of June is designed to give you some sort of foundation if you work along with us and with support the whole way through. So the team is just constantly talking with you, answering your questions about anything you need throughout that month of June, so that if you're working along with us, you get to June, you have experience coaching. That part you're probably already doing. And then you also have, at the very least, a basic website and some thoughts about how you're, taking this forward to get some clients. The Build Your Business course it isn't technically included, although we do give it to people who enroll in the coach training by December 5th. So for those of you who are already enrolled, you will be getting that at no extra cost. And then anyone who enrolls before December 5th will get it. And if you enroll after December 5th, you can still be part of it. It just isn't included. And then certification happens usually in June or July. And so what that means, it is optional. It's up to you, but it's no additional cost or anything like that. What you would do is send me an additional, and I'll talk about the coaching session feedback in a minute, but you'll send me a final session that's kind of your certification call. I'll listen to that. So it's a recorded session of you coaching someone. I'll listen to that, and then we'll have a 45-minute or so call, just the two of us, where I'll give you some feedback on your coaching session. And then we talk about whatever else you want to talk about. Often we kind of talk about where you want your business to go, and you just have that time with me to ask any questions and do whatever we want to do. And then, if your session is passable, then you'll be certified at the end of that. Okay, so as for the coaching throughout the course, this is a little bit different than how I've done it in the past. So you will be coaching the whole way through, starting after our January 3-day. So we kick this off with our 3 days in January, and where you watch me do a ton of coaching, and you might dabble in it a little bit. So you guys coach a little bit in January, but it's mostly me. And then we dissect it and we talk about it, and you really kind of get a feel for it. And then after that, those 3 days in January, you're off to start your own practice coaching. You can do that with friends and family. You will have a coaching buddy assigned to you who's also in the training. So you can pair up with your buddy and practice coaching each other. And we help you. There's lots of ways to think about people that you can approach for practice coaching. And I do ask that you have at least 15 coaching sessions, and you'll just have a little log where you'll track those. You don't have to send them all to me. I won't listen to them all or anything, but you want to have at least 15 practice sessions, just so that you really get a feel for this, in our time together. You will send me one session fairly early on, and we'll talk all about how you can record the sessions. We make it really easy. So you will send me a recorded practice session, And I know these are practice. I know it's very early on. So it's just to get you some early feedback and direction that I think is usually due kind of in the very beginning of March. Then you'll have an opportunity to record and send another session for feedback. And some of my more experienced change coaches listen to those sessions and they offer you very detailed feedback. And then if you go for certification, you can send me a third one in the end. So there's at least 3 times where you can send a full coaching session. And, you know, when I say give feedback, like some of the panelists can tell you, you get a lot of feedback from me anyway. I will make a video usually giving you feedback and I'll talk for 45 minutes and I'll point out everything you did. And it's just, when we do surveys at the end of the training, that's one of the things that people say is like just super valuable, that they don't tend to get other places. So you get so much specific guidance and feedback. And I just think that's so important. I mean, there's just not many places that we get that. And what could be more helpful, you know, than saying, these things were great. What if you did this way? You know, it's like that stuff that we just can't see unless someone who's much more experienced points it out to us. So that's kind of, again, there's lots of time for questions and all of this is written down and there's calendars and there's all the stuff to kind of help you get your head around it. But that's just kind of a big picture sense of what happens in the training, how it runs. People always ask how much time it takes. And I have here average 3 to 5 hours per week, but I don't know the right statistic. It probably shouldn't be an average. It probably should be like a median or something, because it probably is an average of 3 to 5 hours a week, but keep in mind that when we have 3-day trainings, we're together for like 24 hours those weeks. So there's many weeks where it might be like 90 minutes. It might be like 2 hours. There's many weeks where it might be 5 hours. And then we have our time together. Everything is recorded. Everything is very flexible. So it's really kind of designed for you to be able to do in a way that works best for you. Some people get super excited and they book themselves solid with practice coaching sessions, and that's awesome. But a lot of people can't do that, and that's okay too. I would say probably, I don't know, I feel like at least 60% of the people who come through any given training have a full-time job. So that's very, very feasible. I mean, the majority of people tend to have a full-time job. Those who don't are usually working part-time. Many of them are coaches, but maybe they've lightened up their schedule while they're going through this training, or they're therapists, or they're doing some of this work. But it's very feasible to do it with a full-time job, and it's very flexible. Everything we do, from the 3 days to every call we have, all of it is recorded, and you get to keep all of that for life. So, and I highly recommend that people do this. Just go back and listen. I mean, you'll want to. It's fun to see how far you've come, to check in with your old friends 2 years, 3 years after your training ends, to just kind of go back and freshen up. And you hear a lot of new things when you kind of go through that way. Okay, let me check here. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to introduce some panelists and let them say a little bit about their experience in the training, and they're happy to answer some questions if you have questions for them. I'll probably let each of the 3 of them talk a little bit first, and then I'm about done. So we'll kind of open it up for questions for anyone. Yeah, we'll do that. So I'm going to start with Missy, and there's Missy.
Hello, Amy, and
Hi,
everyone.
Thanks so much for being here. Oh, I like your doggy back there.
Oh, yeah, we're at the beach this week, so she's tagging along.
So I asked Missy to be here as a person who could speak to a few things. One, I mean, Missy, you fall in that camp of just being super impacted by this, and maybe 10 years ago, not ever thinking you would be a coach or a change coach. Yeah, you didn't know
never.
What that was. So she can share a little bit of just having her own transformation, and then sort of saying, wow, like I would love to share this with people. And also, kind of along those lines, having no experience in being an entrepreneur, really like working with people in this sort of way. And Missy's done amazing just by sharing what she's seen, getting a lot of practice. She did a lot of practice in our training. And I think that just set you up, Missy, to like just keep it going and convert those people to paying clients, many of them. So your path through this has been awesome. So I'll let you say a few words about that.
So I guess I'll start with just a real quick, my transformation is what really led me to this. So I came to Little School of Big Change, beginning of 2019, never having heard any of this. I was an elementary school teacher for most of my adult life. And then I transitioned from elementary school teaching to curriculum and instruction for various school systems across the country. So when I found Amy, I had just had like 48 years of kind of just cruising along in life and then falling off the cliff in a pretty dramatic way. Some of you may have heard my change story on Amy's podcast, but I went, just like I said, from like 48 years of pretty much living a normal, regular school teacher life, mom of 3 daughters, to waking up completely covered head to toe in hives, like big giant red welts from my scalp to the bottoms of my feet. That led to a period of depression and like really intense anxiety that I had never experienced in my life. I mean, it just really consumed me. So I found Amy. And of course, like most people who come to Little School of Big Change, I came specifically, I wanted Amy to help fix me. I wanted her to teach me how to not be depressed and how to not live in terror. And then as a bonus, I was hoping maybe Amy could help me get rid of my chronic hives. So I came with a very tall list for Amy to fix. And over the course of 2019, through the Little School of Big Change, and then through the graduate program, oh my gosh, I just got so much more than fixing depression and anxiety and chronic hives. I felt like she just helped me uncover the truth of who I was. And it was like diamond that had been covered up in like, I don't know, dog crap or something. And Amy said, let me just show you your diamond. So everything changed in my life during that year in Little School of Big Change. From the class through the graduate community, I felt like I went from the absolute depths of depression to just shining again. So then fast forward real quick, because sorry, I didn't mean to go so long on that. So I kept teaching, I kept working with school systems, enjoyed my full-time job. And then I so desperately wanted to share this with people because my life had just honestly turned around completely. And I wanted to know how I could further ground myself in it and then how I could share it. So I signed up for Amy's Change Coach program, never having, been a coach, like I said, elementary school teacher. So came into it really just dumb, just completely not knowing what I was doing. And, but just so eager to learn. And Amy really I think one of the things that helped me was that as soon as I joined, I just kind of made the decision, I'm just going to start saying yes, 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 yes. And I just jumped in like a little kid with 2 feet right into the deep end and said, yes, I want to practice coach. Yes, I want to do whatever you suggest will be helpful. And I did keep my job while I did coach training. So for any of you that have a job that are worried that you can't do both, you can. I absolutely maintained my job and did coach training and did practice coaching, and it was fine. I fell in love head over heels with my fellow coaches, a couple of them whose beautiful smiles I see right now. We still get together. We still text each other, have conversations. We have WhatsApp groups together. And yeah, as soon as I graduated and had my certificate, I honestly just stayed that course of saying yes and just jumped truly 2 feet into coaching. Jumped into making YouTube videos. I have a YouTube channel with, I don't know, I think I'm up to maybe 34, 35 videos now on anxiety, depression, chronic hives. Started blogging, saying yes to anyone who asked me to coach them. I was like, yes, please, I will coach you. Did a lot of free coaching at the beginning. And then gradually a lot of those free clients turned into paying clients. And I recently took 2 months off from my job to focus 100% on coaching. Now I'm back just very, very limited part-time in my job so that I can really just flourish in coaching. And Amy just continues to be a huge support. Lisa and Lexi, who are also on here, are just offer like the best cheerleading skills anyone could ever hope for, to give me ideas. And I will say, in terms of the cost, such a brilliant investment. Like, I have no regrets investing in the program. I was able to recoup what I invested pretty quickly through coaching clients. And honestly, one of the best things I ever did. So thank you, Amy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Missy. I love, I mean, everyone's different and everyone feels different when they're going through this. But what Missy's sharing about just saying yes, I think is just so huge. And this is what we've seen over the years of all of the groups that have been through this. It's like, we all get to that place at different points, but when you're just like, okay, I've seen something that I know can help people and I'm just going to do it. And yes, I'm going to feel insecure and I'm going to feel nervous and I'm not going to know what I'm doing in the beginning, because that is the case for everything. You can all go get a brand new job tomorrow and you will feel insecure and like you don't know what you're doing. It's nothing to do with coaching. It's just life, right? So I'm going to feel all that. I'm going to be lost. I'm going to be confused, and I'm just going to say yes and keep doing it. And then just to watch. And this is how we help with the business development too. It's really our number one thing. It's like, go do the work, give free sessions, say yes to things, and it no doubt will start to yield results because of how you're trained. Because Missy sees something and can help people in a way that the average coach just can't, because what we point to is different. It's deeper. So because of her training, she can say yes to all kinds of things and know pretty well that it's going to go well. And then people want more when it goes well. I mean, it sounds so basic and common sense, but to Missy's credit, and I just want everyone to hear that, it is that thing of like, hey, let me just dive into this and do it. And it pays off when we do that.
And Amy, to that point, I will just say I was petrified. I even told Amy sort of toward the beginning of our coach training, I apologize that every time it was my turn to practice coach or speak or present, I would like freak out and my voice would shake and I couldn't swallow. And I was just like, my heart would race. And I was just a wreck. And Amy was like, so what? Just show up with your shaky voice and you can't swallow and your sweat dripping down your back and your heart racing out of your chest, and do your thing. And she was just so gracious. And I think that is honestly her support and the support of all the other coaches who could see me just like literally shaking. It encouraged me to just keep saying yes, like to everything. Yes, I'll make videos. Yes, I'll write blogs. Yes, I'll be on podcasts. Yes, I'll coach anyone who asks me to coach, because I just wasn't afraid of being terrified. And I still show up to a lot of things terrified. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Missy. So good. Okay. If people have questions for Missy, we'll get there in a sec. Lexi.
Hi.
Hi, Lexi. So Lexi is someone I wanted to share because she was a coach already. So she had some experience, had been coaching for a little while, and she can say it in her words, but really kind of came through this training as sort of, further professional development. I mean, I think for anyone who's serious again about any industry, any work you do, you don't just go to school or get your training and then you're done. It's continuous. And for me, for sure, I'm constantly reading and learning and doing new things. And Lexi is too. And so she's a great example of that. So if that's some of you, she can speak a little bit maybe to how this training helped her as someone who was already doing this work and kind of what it added. So you want to say a little bit, Lexi?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you. And hi, Missy. Hi, Lisa. So yeah, a lot of what Missy's already said, I'll kind of leave and just try and touch other areas so that we kind of broaden it out. So I love the yes thing for starters, because I mean, Missy is really kind of, in lots of ways, you're quite extrovert and you love people and you're that kind of person. She's amazing. And I'm kind of introverted. So although I've been coaching for quite a while, saying yes felt quite tricky to me too in different ways. And one of the most amazing things, as Missy just said about Amy, is she is so gracious and she created this space, this container. And I wrote down a couple of words when Amy was talking about how it underpins everything, and kind of that's both the understanding. And when Amy's talking about the grounding, that's what she brought too. So her grounding of being so solidly in that space of, yeah, there is this place where we're all okay. And it felt so expansive that it was easy to be in there too. So the kind of the fears just begin to fall away. And so the first time Amy actually did some coaching on the first of 3-day weekend, I was just like, how could she do that so brave in front of all of us with somebody she'd never spoken to before, and just go, well, it'll go as it goes. It might be brilliant, it might be terrible, but either way we'll learn stuff. And she modeled something which was so easy for us then to carry on with, because she didn't worry about it being so perfect. She was just like, we'll just be where we are and we'll see what we see. And as a result, we got to do that as well. So the bit I wrote down, that how it underpins everything else. And I think that's true, because I'd been through a few other modalities as well. And I'd also done 2 other 3 principles trainings before this one, a 6-month one and a 9-month one. And this one was so deeply, profoundly helpful. And I think I can't remember, Amy, if I actually heard you say these words or if I just put them in my head afterwards, but on one of the videos or the podcasts, she said, it's just so great doing this. I feel like Neo from the Matrix. And I don't know whether you said that or I said that in response to something you said, but that's what I felt I got. Like I already felt like, having coached and seen the 3 principles, that I had a bit of Neo-ness, but like him at the beginning of the movie, like he kind of knew that he was in this other world and that it wasn't real, but he couldn't stop the bullets. And by the end of it, that's how it felt. Like you could just put your hand up and all the bullets just drop, because the whole kind of experience of life feels so different. And I think that to me was so helpful and just opened up stuff I hadn't seen before in that kind of really deep way. And then when we do have to do the brave thing of sending the recordings of our coaching, and it's like you send it off and then that's excitement, like as if you're waiting for Christmas, like you're waiting for the feedback, and it's like, how's it going to be? And it was like Christmas, because the depth of the feedback that you get from Amy is just mind-blowing. And it's so beautifully put too. It's like, yeah, she'll tell you all the really great stuff. So even when you're really scared and you think you know nothing, she tells you all the really great stuff you've done, and then go, and there's this that you could maybe do a little bit differently, and perhaps you could consider this. It's so gentle, but it's also laser focused. She misses nothing, but it's done in a way that never makes you feel less than, or that it's like there's always more to see, not that you have ever failed. And that was just so beautiful as well. What else did I put? So yes, it's her commitment to us, which is, however nice you think Amy is, she really is, and more. It's like, you kind of think, really? Can somebody really be that genuine and helpful and lovely and give to so many of us? And yes, she can, and yes, she does, and continues to, even now. And the other thing is the group itself. It's it's true. We have become a family, and it feels magical. It really does. It feels so special, and grounding as well. So the course is grounding, Amy is grounding, the understanding that we develop is grounding, and then the family that we create is kind of like the icing on the cake. So yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Lexi. I love that. I mean, I think that's so important to have all of this community and just to feel grounded in everything, in what we're sharing and the people around us, because it's like probably the biggest thing I hear from other coaches who say, I love what I do, but I'm kind of alone in it. And we can be alone in it, and that's okay, but we don't have to be alone in it. And that's what I love so much about us, is like there's just such a beautiful connection that forms. And you guys might want to get away from me at some point, but you can't, because I'm just kind of your mentor for life. And usually, that works out. That works out on all of our behalfs. So we just get to stay connected. And you, even if you're off doing your own thing, that there's a place to go. It's me, it's your other classmates. I mean, I always say when I'm talking to them at the end, it kind of feels like we're cousins, where you may not talk every day. You may only see them at holidays or something, but if you need something, you can call that person. And I truly, we are that for each other. So that's so important. Thank you so much, Lexi. I appreciate it. Lisa.
Hi there.
Hi, Lisa. So, Lisa, you also were in the camp, I think, of other work, other life, 5-10 years ago, never thought you'd be a coach maybe, but really saw the impact of this yourself through some of your own coaching that you received. And then I know you've been on the podcast talking about ADHD and different things. And so I just love sort of the direction that this is going for you. So maybe, just say a few words about kind of your experience.
Sure. Yeah. So I learned about the 3 principles a couple of years ago, and it was life-changing for me. And it really changed how I lived in terms of anxiety, and just took care of that. It was amazing. So I always thought, I need to get this to other people. The world needs more of this. And I basically stumbled upon Amy through an email, and saw that she was doing the training program. And I thought, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. I thought about social work. I thought, it's at this point in my life where I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, which was, the story of my life, really, also. But it just seemed exactly what I wanted to do. And so I did the training program in 2021. And it was amazing, just as Missy and Lexi have said. I mean, everything about it. It's just done so well. It just covers all the bases. And then towards the end of my training, I had a death in the family and some other stuff going on. And so I didn't really get to really get into the building my business part of it until towards the end of the year. And I just felt like I wanted more grounding. I wanted more solid grounding. And then Amy kindly offered to do the program again. So I did this year, 2022. Again, I mean, it's just, I was able to get my grounding much more solid, and I'm still working on that. I came into this really having a little bit of the understanding, but not a lot, not as much as I thought. And I hadn't done the Little School of Big Change. I didn't even know it existed until I joined the coach training program. So that was an amazing way, I thought, to really learn about how this all works and this understanding. And I also say that I think, as Lexi and Missy have said, the community itself is, I never expected to get that out of it, like the community of people that are in the training program, the support people, Amy, everybody is just, we're all in it for the same reason. And it's just so nice to have that support whenever we need it, and because it's an ongoing process. And, I have my website up and some Instagram stuff, and to know that there are people there that can help me when I have questions, and when I have questions about coaching or whatever. It's just an amazing community. I think, let me just see, I made some notes too, but I think everybody pretty much covered it. One of the things I really loved is that is all the coaching and watching other people coach, coming into it, not having any coaching experience at all. Watching other people coach was really helpful. And then of course, being able to do practice coaching, it's just, it all works together really well. And that, I think that's all I've got for now.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I love, it's just a slightly different path. Everybody has their own unique path of what they've seen before, what you come in with, like Lisa didn't even know about the Little School of Big Change. Missy had been through it. Lexi had been through it. So and it's all okay. I think this understanding is sort of like the great equalizer. And it's like we all just kind of settle in and look in the same direction. And truly, it doesn't really matter once we get into it, whether you've been around this for 5, 10, 15 years already, or whether it's new. I mean, I can think of, in addition to Lisa, I can think of a couple handfuls of trainees who really didn't know that much about what we even share. They just heard about this somewhere along the line. It seemed a little deeper and different, than everything else out there. And they kind of learned it on the fly, and we all just kind of end up where we end up, and there's no better or worse, and there's no race to any place. We're just here with a human being in our conversations, just pointing to what we see, and what we see deepens a lot as we kind of go through the training. So I love that Lisa's path was her path, and that she saw, to me, it's super admirable to kind of say, hey, yeah, I've done this once, but it wasn't exactly, I couldn't be there in exactly the way I wanted to. I'm going to do it again. Like, that says a lot, to go through it again, and that she got so much the second time through, because it's a living creature. It's not like I had slides here. I don't have slides, and the slides are new to me, but there's no okay, here are the teaching points, guys. Okay, now you got it. It's the interaction. It's the coaching. It's what happens in real life as we're in this together. So, so I think that's really, really awesome that we all do it our own way. Thank you guys so much. So you can drop off when you need to, but I'm going to open to questions. And then if you have questions, any of you, for me, for any of the panelists, feel free. And some are in the chat that I'm going to speak to. I just want to put this up because these are the questions I always get. You don't have to make your question fit into one of these categories, but we'll see what comes up and how they fit here. And again, I'll go to some questions that are in the chat. Actually, let me go back to me for a minute, and then I'll come to those concerns when we get to the end if they haven't been addressed. Okay, Sherry.
There we go. I had a question. As far as the class starting in January, from now we just finished, and that's probably, I did the course, as an independent person, then I joined the group, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, can I start, and I think I read that I could actually start, sign up for the independent coaching at and do it online for myself, but also participate in the other things until the coaching actually starts, the main course.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that okay? Because I've got time to do it. And I was like, I want more of an understanding. And I just thought, well, I don't want to jeopardize my spot in order to be there. But at the same time, if I can add to my skill set, that would be great too.
Yeah. So what Sherry's talking about, she just finished the Little School of Big Change that just ended. And you're enrolled for the January training, but the self-study. So yes, we have, and thanks for bringing that up because I wanted to bring it up. So we have a self-study, the self-paced kind of coach training. It's not the same. I mean, it's not the same as the live training, obviously, but it is a lot of the key points with me going into the, creative videos around a lot of the key points to really start to give you a feel for how change coaching works, how we do it. There are, I think, 6 or 7 coaching sessions in there. So you'll get to see full sessions, and then I come on and debrief. There's stuff about business. So it's a self-study. It's a self-paced digital course. And yes, I'll give you that so if anyone's enrolled already, yeah, you can have that to go through to kind of have something to keep you busy and get you ready for January. And for the rest of you, there's a couple ways that people use that. It's a great thing to do if you're not quite sure if you want to be in the live training course. Like if you don't know if this is for you, to go through that self-study, you'll see quite a bit, and you'll get a good feel for it. And then if you do it in that way, whatever you paid toward the self-study, it goes towards your live training. So it's not like you have to make a choice like, oh, do I invest in this or do I invest in that? If you're thinking about it, invest in the self-study. It's quite a bit less than live training. And then we just apply everything toward it. So, but yes, for you, Sherry, and for anyone else who's already wanted to save their spot in the January, we'll send you that. And it'll be a great thing to go through in the meantime.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. So go ahead and raise your hand. Any questions that anyone has, and we'll go around. I see Susie now Susie, your hand's up, so I'll let you ask it. Oh, are you there, Susie? You might have to unmute yourself.
I'm on mute.
There you go.
I have a ton of questions, but I'm going to kind of pick my top ones, and then maybe there's some support guests that I can follow up with. Yeah. So I actually found you through a different coaching program around habit change, and I fell in love instantly. I cannot stop listening to your podcast. And so a couple different things. I do have a bit of a background in coaching, both from kind of my day job, but also dabbling in coaching, I don't know, a long time ago. And are you accredited? And if not, is your program running that if coaching at one point in time becomes accredited, will this program meet up with those regulations?
Yeah, great question. So right now we are not accredited. As you said, no one, it's not something that has to happen. And the reason why we aren't so far, although we are looking into it right now even, but the reason I haven't been thus far is because the criteria for ICF accreditation, the body that does that, they tend to go by a little more of like the traditional life coaching model. It's like holding clients accountable. It's doing certain things that are important, but they're not really the depth of where this kind of coaching goes. So just those criteria haven't matched up enough and the number of people that ask me about that is very few. So, and I think the number of clients that are looking for coaches that care about the accreditation, again, if you're a business coach or something, I think there's more interest in that. Yeah. But the average person who wants help with a habit or anxiety, they don't care if their coach is accredited. So thus far, it hasn't looked that important. But again, that said, we're talking about it regularly, me and my team, and we are. And yes, if it becomes a requirement, without question, we'll take those steps. Okay. Yeah.
The other thing I want to ask about, because I kind of decided in January I want to take the plunge and we're going to revisit coaching, and I want to veer out of what I'm doing. I kind of career coach right now, but I want to do it on more lifestyle things. And I have a lot of experience myself with anxiety and depression and all of those things. So I would rather, I want to do that. Do you feel your program is different than maybe what I could pick out from like a CTI, like Coaches Training Institute, or Coach U, or any of the kind of bigger names out there that I've heard about and specifically experienced before?
I mean, I think it's 100% completely different. 100% completely different in how we view human beings and your issues. So how we view you with anxiety or depression or anything like that, 180 degrees different. Like there is not a problem here that needs to be solved. And I say that with the most love and respect for someone who feels like there's a problem, because that's the thing. Our clients come and they're like, I'm broken. Fix me. This sucks. This, it's ruining my relationships. And that's true for them. That's true for them. So we love them and we get it, because most of us as coaches have been just like you, right? Like we know what that feels like, and it does suck, and we do feel broken. So we fully see that and are with them in that, but we hold out for their health. Like Missy said, like there's a diamond in there just covered by dog poop. And I'm not talking to the dog poop ever. I am talking to that diamond, and you are going to see that diamond. And that is different than I think any therapy, any coaching, anything else that's out there.
Okay. I kind of knew the answer to that question, but I just had to ask. I'll let somebody else go. Thank you so much. Awesome. I appreciate it.
If your other questions aren't answered, feel free to raise your hand again, and I'll share a link too where you can schedule a call with me if you want to.
Okay. That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Joanne.
Hi.
Hey.
So I guess I'm in the bin of people who would want to do the coach training to deepen my own understanding, not necessarily to coach others. However, like the fears that come up around coaching, I'm just wondering, I'm assuming other people have them. Like I have in close relationship people who I don't talk about this with, because I mean, I do, they just don't know I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all cloak and dagger. But like, for example, my sister is a very experienced psychologist, therapist. And I have talked to her about it a little bit, but it makes me I feel very back on my heels with her. And I think that she represents a large number of people who are out there looking for help. Although then why should I just send them to her? Anyway, but, and then there's like my own husband who's like whip smart and intellectually razor sharp. And I'm off screen, sorry. And so I do talk to him, share some things with him, but like if I think about coaching someone like him, oh my gosh, like what a nightmare. And then thinking of coaching people like me is an even worse nightmare. It's like, oh my gosh, who would want to do that? And then if I had to deal with myself, I don't know, like you must come up with against this in your coach discussions. And
yeah,
like can you speak to that a little bit? Like it just feels really big and scary, and I know I don't have to coach, I get that, but it does cross my mind that it would be meaningful, and I would love to help people find the small bit of freedom I've had. I think is huge for me,
Yeah.
Anyway.
And you're not so bad to coach. I've coached you. You're okay. Yeah, I'll let some of the panel share this. I know Missy just shared in the chat that she comes from a family of psychologists. I mean, the first thing I'll just say about this is where our minds go. This is where my mind went. This is where, when we get together, and this is where minds are, is people are going to argue. They're not going to get it. They have different views. I'm going to sound insensitive because I'm telling someone they're not broken. These are the concerns that everyone has. And as we do this work, they just fall away because they are out of the context, out of the practice, out of doing it. That's just what our mind makes up, I guess. So, our mind just looks and paints these pictures of like people arguing with us and saying, who do you think you are? And all of that. And in reality, we're like, if we really break it down, we're literally just here with a human being saying, tell me what life looks like for you. We're not going in trying to swoop in with advice or answers or saying, this is how life always works. And in a really practical sense, you won't be coaching people like your husband or your sister or her clients that much because they won't want to go to you. And that's wonderful.
That's true.
You will coach people that want to talk to you. And that's part of what we do when we talk about what we do is we're sort of attracting the people that want to have this conversation. And it isn't everyone,
Yeah. So lots of lazy procrastinators.
Yeah.
Who drink too much.
That's my favorite person to talk to. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, let me open it. Yeah. Do Missy, do you want to share or Lexi or Lisa or anyone? Yeah. What that was like for you?
I'll just pop in real quick, Joanne, because that was a huge one for me. I literally come from an entire family, my dad, aunts, uncles, my sister, all like PhD level psychologists, therapists. And when I told them I was doing this, they just shook their head like, oh, that is so adorable. How cute that you're going to do this little coaching thing, but, don't actually go try to help people because you might mess them up. So yeah, I was definitely up against a lot within my own family, but you know what? It worked out, and I don't coach anyone in my family. I would never coach anyone in my family. I would definitely never.
Good point.
Husband.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And
no. But even people like my husband.
No.
Well, they never come to me anyway.
Come to you want to be coached like this, and so far I have had no problems with. I don't even want to say finding people, having people find me that genuinely want this type of compassionate, kind, loving coaching.
Yeah.
Missy,
can I ask you something? Can I ask you something a little more, like, I guess, personal?
Yeah.
It's not that personal, but just, I feel like listening to you on group calls and stuff, I feel like you and I have sort of similar backgrounds or like religious culture wise. And that's another part of me.
I think we do. Yes.
Yeah.
Strong religious background. Yeah. Like
and
birth.
like sort of, whatever. So I also get like pushback from people who I'm in close relationship with who would love it if I would do this from like a Christian perspective, but that's not where I'm coming from. And I'm just wondering, like, I guess you just navigated that however you do, because don't you coach people from your church community?
I do. And I did go through that in the beginning with people literally reaching out to me saying, why don't you just coach from a Christian perspective? And I navigated it. The beautiful thing about this conversation is that we're talking to a bigger container.
Yeah.
And so within that, it doesn't matter what little pieces there are. So it's easy to navigate those who want to say, can you just speak to this little teeny speck within the container? And I just say, no, I speak to the whole container. So it's included. There's nothing excluded. There's nothing to defend.
No, and I don't usually try to, even in the conversations I have that are, where I may be card tipping a bit. But anyway, okay. Well, I was just curious about that.
Okay. Thanks.
So, thanks.
Yeah, I just can't say enough, Joanne, that it's so common. It just looks like we're going to have all these objections and be up against all this stuff. And I think that's the beauty in just starting to do this is you just, if that does happen, you just roll with it. And largely it just doesn't happen. But we could tell you that all day. And it's like, until you start doing it, then you see that it doesn't happen,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you want to share, Lexi?
Yeah. So the one other thing is this time we had, when we did our course, we had that lovely list of people, didn't we, that we could also coach that were, was
Yeah.
that something you would do again the next year? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was really lovely too. So Amy managed to kind of get in touch with a whole bunch of people who had areas they wanted support on. And we had this big spreadsheet where it told us a little bit about what their particular habit or area of concern was. And we had an opportunity to reach out to these people and speak with them and have conversations, coaching conversations for free for them. And sometimes they lead into paying clients later, but also it gives us an opportunity to speak to people that are way outside our own kind of social circles. And we get to experience people with whom we've got no other connection. And that can be really, really nice and liberating, because you just get to be utterly yourself. All the kind of the chat that our minds have that's to do with our own backgrounds and our own social everything's just don't count, and we just get to be really open and present with people. I found that really lovely, a really nice part.
Yeah, that's really good to know. And I kind of figured just from conversation here today that there was something like that available. So it's good to have that confirmed, because that would be much easier.
Really is. It's lovely. It's really fun. And I'm still in contact with several of the people from my list that I met through that. So yeah, that was very special.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Lexi. Yeah, there's a few things. I'm going to go to the hands, but I'll just say really briefly. I feel like there's a lot of things about this training that I haven't mentioned. There was a lot of information already. But one is what Lexi just mentioned, that because you're having these practice coaching sessions and you're giving them to me for feedback and all of that, it's usually around March, I open up to my mailing list of, people. We actually exclude people who have been through the Little School of Big Change, but so it's people that are kind of newer, but they're open to this, or they wouldn't be on my mailing list. So we open it up and we say, hey, do you want some free sessions with some coaches and training? And then we pair you with a few people. And like Lexi mentioned, it's really common that you guys get practice with them, and then you can offer them like, hey, I'm done with my training, but this is what I charge. And a lot of times those are some of your earliest paying clients. And so it's really cool to have it built in that way. Also, when the training ends, we do, once you're certified, you will be listed on the directory. So you can have people find you from the directory, which lives on my website. We get a lot of email just through our support email for people, from people looking for coaches. And I don't do any of that at this point. I send everyone out to change coaches. So they'll say, oh, I'm struggling with this. And I'll say, oh, these 3 coaches would be great for that. And we're doing that all the time. So it's really kind of built in for you to get some clients that way as well. There is a quarterly call for all certified change coaches. So every few months, no matter what you're doing, you get a link to join a call, and I'm just there supporting you guys. We're talking about what's new in our business, and you can bring questions. We have that kind of support. We have a much more involved level of support, which is our change coach community. That's an optional community, but people are part of that. And what we do, we have 2 calls a month in the change coach community. One of those is a coaching session where, again, you're getting feedback. And another one is all around your business. So it's a business, we call it our business incubator call, where we're supporting you in getting clients and doing that. What else? What did I forget? All kinds of, like I mentioned, Lisa's been on the podcast, like just different things that come to mind that once you're sort of in this sphere, that are opportunities for you. And we are going to be launching in early 2023 a way to actually pair change coaches, a better, more formal way to pair the people who are coming to my site, which is quite a few people looking for coaches, with change coaches. So people can do like some of my digital courses, and then they can pay to have some coaching sessions tacked on. So we're always thinking about, like, I love leading this training, but I lead this training partly because it's super fun and I absolutely love it. And I know the personal benefits for people, but partly because I want more change coaches in the world. Like, we need more change coaches in the world. So it is and this is our whole business. This is like, we need to get this out spreading. So it is to our benefit that you are very successful after, and that you're having conversations and you're spreading this work. So we're doing everything we can possibly do, to foster that. So there's a lot of all of that long stuff I just said was in response to something I think Susie had in the chat about what's available after, but there's a lot available after. I'll just say that. Okay. Anne.
Hey there. I have a question kind of pointed at Lexi, but so I'm a full-time therapist now, and I'm curious what you found since you were already coaching. Like, I kind of know the answer, but I want to hear your experience specifically. Like, did you totally change your coaching tactic and platform when you got through this? Like, did you revamp everything, or did you just merge it and like do this work under the same name essentially? And then in that, did you find, not that it's an expensive course, did you find the benefits, the financial benefits to come to fruition as far as since you already were going full force, if that makes sense?
So I was a coach already rather than a therapist. So what has happened for me is it's kind of gradually morphed and changed my coaching over the years. So I started off being a coach that was very much like the kind of getting from A to B kind of coach. And then I did the CTI training that somebody else was talking about and did the whole certification thing there. And nobody's ever asked me about my certification and the ICF part of that ever. And then gradually it kind of morphed along. But the main thing I'd like to kind of put across is that what Amy was saying at the beginning is it's more about the container that it offers. So there were some conversations in our group with therapists were saying, but do I need to ditch all of my kind of tools and my things that I've already got in order to work this way? But it's to me, at least, it looks like the container is so big it holds everything else anyway. So they don't necessarily need to kind of be put to one side. It's like when we look at people from like knowing deeply, that grounded knowing that they are okay already. It's like, rather than we need to fix you, it's like, you are okay already. And sometimes it might be kind of helpful to do a thing. Sure. And some people find it helpful to have a thing along the way. It's like, really, thought is just this thing, and it never can overwhelm us, and it's all safe. And sometimes some people like to have something else as well. So it's more, but when we come from that place, everything else feels different anyway. So even like with the game of life, to me, if I was going to kind of put words around it, it goes from, I need to play the game of life to be okay. It's more like, you are absolutely okay, and it's fun to play the game of life. And that little tiny shift seems to be so helpful to people, because they are, okay, there's nothing I need to do. Like, imagine playing a game of Monopoly and you think that everything's kind of really matters on whether you win the game of Monopoly. That's so different, isn't it? To, well, okay, I've got everything nailed, but a game of Monopoly is kind of fun. And when people see it from that perspective, then the tools can be okay. That's how it.
Sure. Okay.
Does that kind of help?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thanks. It just struck me as Lexi was sharing too, how different each person coaches. Like, you can imagine just by listening to Missy, Lexi, and Lisa, they all have they're pointing to the exact same place, but they come across in very different ways. And Lexi does stuff in her coaching that no one else does. And so does Missy and Lisa. And that's what's beautiful about this, is there is no way. It's like, we just see as much as we can see ourselves. And then it comes out however it comes out, including, I think, all of our past training and all of that. So yeah, it's really, I don't know, it's really cool to just see how that like organically kind of happens. Karen.
Hello, everyone. So I don't live in America. I live in Denmark, and I'm just curious about whether you've had any participants joining you that that lived in different time zones, and that the whole sort of language thing. Doing coaching sessions in a language that isn't your native language. Has that worked, or is it difficult with the 3-day sessions time zone wise? Yeah.
Yeah, great question. Well, Lexi's in the UK, so she's one, but probably, 35 to 40%, I would say, of our coaches do not live in North America all over. We have all over Western Europe, a lot in the UK, but Germany. And in this coming training, we have a couple from Germany. There's France, there's Denmark. We have Danish coaches all over your part of the world. We also have a few from Australia who really have a hard time with the time change. And I feel so horrible for them. But what we do with the live trainings is we are all together. They run from 9 to 5 Eastern time, which ends up being about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock for you, 3 to kind of 10 p.m. your time. So that, barring New Zealand and Australia, like that covers most of us in a reasonable time. So your trainings would just start in the afternoon and go till nighttime. And we also have Pacific time, obviously. So they start very early, but that's sort of the sweet spot where we can hit everyone. But yes, there's quite a few from all over the world. And the Australians, they do some hardcore sleep training. I don't know how they do it, but they start beforehand and they try to train themselves so that they can be awake and alive for most of our live trainings. But again, everything's recorded. And it's very common when we're together for that long that people need to pop out for an hour or two here or there. So, that's always okay. The language is a great question too. So what I've seen, I think it's different for everyone. You seem to have perfect English, but I think most of the coaches where English is not their first language, I could be wrong about this, but I think most of them have sort of learned this understanding in English. Like most of the classes they've taken and books have been in English. So they might coach in both languages, but they seem to coach a little bit more in English. And that's not like you can do whatever you want, right? But I think for most people, that's just kind of where they've landed. It's like, okay, my training was in English. Most of my grounding is in English. They feel more comfortable doing it in English. But as I say that, I can think of a handful of people that are also coaching in their own native language. So I think it's just whatever you're comfortable with. And you'd for sure have friends that you could talk about that with, because we have a few.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we do have dates for the January, March, and May 3 days. They're actually on, I'm going to put a link in here real quick. And that's not it. And they're on that page. I know the January one is the 26th through the 28th. That's when we kick it off. And then the March and May are, I think, usually like the third weekend in those months, but all the dates should be in there. Tammy.
Yes, I don't think anybody asked this. In case they did, please forgive me. But if we opt, and I'm not saying this is what I'm doing, but if we opt to not sign up for the January class, when will the next one be offered?
The following January. So it's
okay, so it will be a full year, because I have people asking me. They're like, well, all signs seem to be go because I found more change.
That's great.
Oh, I mean, it was nuts. I literally set my water jug down at the gym and there's a penny sitting there, and it's just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Okay, so just for everyone, I won't go into all the details, but Tammy wants to do this program and she loves to see signs, and she's finding change everywhere, which is just perfect, right? Because that's what you're going to be doing, is spreading change everywhere. So keep finding those coins.
So everybody's like, well, if you don't take this one, when can you take the next one? So I needed that to send back to everybody and say, okay, it feels like this is probably the right time to do this. It's just getting those logistics that we talked about figured out. Yeah. But yeah, I'm just literally laughing because I asked my prayer group on a week ago, Tuesday night, to please pray that I would have clarification. And literally bright at dark 30 the next morning, as I set my water jug down at the gym, there's a bright, shiny copper penny right there. So, okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the training I did is led once a year. We do have, the self-study. So if anybody, I would love to have you do it when you're ready to do it. But if you need a little bit longer, the self-study is a great option because it starts to show you some of the stuff. And then again, it's just, you can kind of consider it like a deposit for the live training when you're able to do it. So that's always an option. Love the comments. What else? Any other questions? What have I forgotten? David.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Hi. You put a list up before the commonly asked questions, and I fall under number one. I don't know if I'm ready. And at the same time, I'm very attracted to this direction.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when the email came to sign up for the coaching, it was just, there wasn't even a thought but to sign up for it. And yet, like when I hear Missy speak, it's like Missy, like you had the light bulb just went off. Okay. And my experience, like I'm in a really good place right now, but it took like breaking down the door for it to happen.
Yeah.
So, my experience wasn't this nice little glow that happened. It was dramatic. It was, and you know what, I just, with a little bit of hindsight that I have right now with it, I don't think it could have happened any other way. I needed the door to be kicked down. So, I guess my question is this: I'm not, I'm not sure if I'm spiritual enough. I'm not sure if I'm really in touch. I'm not sure how can I pass this on. And at the same time, I think that doing the training, I think will just take me further and further, if only for my own benefit, if only to ground me further.
Yeah.
So someplace in there was a question.
Well, you just answered your question. Perfect. I'm not sure where the question was, but the answer was there. So and it's so common. That's why it's number one here. I'm not ready. In any way, like my habit still lingers, or I still feel this, or I don't know, like you said, I don't know how to, I've never really talked about this with anyone, but I think what you said is exactly what I see over and over again, that it's kind of like Joanne's question about, well, how will I deal with naysayers? Well, right now, sitting here today, watching a webinar, our mind will make up all these issues with dealing with naysayers, but that's not what happens. As we get into this, as we're in it, we're becoming more fluent in this. We're deepening in it. We're seeing so much ourselves. And from there, it's like the whole landscape changes. So it's very, very natural and easy that right now, sitting here today, that we feel like I'm not ready. But so what? That's just how it looks right here today. Do you know what I mean? Right. There's something about just stepping into this and being pulled through it with everyone that readies us. It just does. And I mean, it's such a good question. And it's like the way the world works. Of course, we think I want to be prepared up front and all of that. But honestly, there's just something about the training is what gets us ready a lot of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. And I love too what David mentioned about, that feeling. And this is so, and you all know this, it's so common to just sort of be in that place of, this doesn't make sense for me. Either I'm not ready, it's not in my time zone, it's not in my language. I never thought I'd be a coach. Like, pick your concern, but it just, something's calling me. It just feels right. Or it just feels exciting. Like, I just want to do it. And we all have to make our own decisions and do what feels right for us. But I don't know. I love that feeling. And I think that's just incredibly, incredibly common. I would say probably most of the coaches that come through this kind of have that. They're like, and we all get together in the beginning and they're like, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? I don't even know, but I'm here and I'm so excited. And I just want to see what unfolds. So again, it's sort of our societal thing that we should be responsible and have a reason, and this should make sense. And, we all know most great things in life just don't even make sense in the beginning. But if there's something that's kind of calling us toward it, there's something to that. Awesome. Alexandra.
Yes, thank you. So I I guess you already maybe answered my question, but I have had the so much awakening with this understanding in my own life. And I'm also at a point in my life where I would like to make just a radical change in what my life's purpose is, really. And I wanted to ask, because I have a bit of like a fear of, oh, but I'm still very young, and like, who would listen to a 26-year-old, something, those types of stories that are coming up in my mind. And I just wanted to ask, like, have you seen success stories maybe of some of your trainees that, I mean, you mentioned people who have not had much coaching experience, which I'm one of those, for example. And but yeah, I just wanted to know if you have some examples or some words to say about like someone who's also very young and not, yeah.
No, it's a great question. And I mean, I think a lot of younger people have this concern, because I've heard this question many times, and we definitely have had coaches go through in their 20s and early 30s who are like, who am I to be a coach, especially a life coach, if you call yourself that, because it's like, I haven't had that much life. But you have, Alexandra, like it's not like we're going out saying, let me, come talk with me and I'll show you how to live a life. I don't think anyone would hire a 26 or an 86-year-old for that, but that's not what we're doing. We're coming from what we've seen. And I know you've seen a lot, and you have had a lot of transformation. And it's like, when we're just there, not as an authority, but knowing their health, because we realized we have it too. And we're just there with what's going on with them, and just seeing little things that they can't see for themselves. That's all this is. And we just do that over and over again. I know it sounds kind of simplistic, but we do that enough, and then they start to see it themselves. So every one of us has something to share that we see that someone else doesn't. And honestly, when people see that, when they get a sense of that, they don't care where you live, how old you are, what you look like, none of it matters. And I think that it's a big message in our business building too. It's like, you don't have to be on social media. You can if you want. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. People are going to want to pay for time with you when they see that you can help them. So for sure. And the way I wish I was 26 starting this. And like, the way I think of that too is like, yeah, you start doing this at 26. Think about how amazing and how much experience you're going to have at 36 and 46. And, I don't think it's ever too young to start this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. And you had another question I meant to speak to about explaining the principles. Was that kind of your question? Yeah. So, I mean, for those of you who are kind of familiar with the 3 principles, it's something that for sure has been a huge influence for me. And it's kind of a basis of a lot of my work. But I think most of you probably know, if you've heard me talk, I don't talk about the 3 principles. I don't explain what the 3 principles are. So the coaching in particular, and everybody does that differently. So some people do like to talk about it more. Some coaches are really wedded to that, and they love to, suggest Sid Banks books and different things. And that's perfect. We're all just doing this our way. But the training doesn't lean heavily on that, because I just don't lean heavily on that. To me, what's super powerful is the depth of the principles, or non-duality, or whatever bigger truth there is, applied in a common sense, down to earth way. Like that's, and that's where I think this training, again, is way beyond a lot of trainings, even in other like spiritual understandings. And there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not putting those down at all. But it's like that bridge to be able to point to something so deep and fundamental and universal, but then help a human being who's suffering see that applies to them too. That's where our superpower is. We can all get on board with like, oh, everyone, we all have innate health. Great. But when you're suffering, you don't see it and you think you're the exception. So that's where we earn our money, is in helping that person see, no, this isn't just a spiritual principle. This is true for you. And here's how it's showing up in your life. So so we go big, but we also zoom in and make it very applicable. Thanks. Okay, if there are other questions, feel free to raise your hand, like I said, and if you have to drop off, no worries. But I can stay on a little bit. Lisa.
I just wanted to say real quick, in response to what Joanne, when she was talking about the naysayers, and I think this hasn't been brought up yet, and the fact that when you go through the training and you become more grounded in this, everybody around you starts to feel it too and see you in a different light. And it just naturally sort of spreads itself out. So, other people will see changes and have questions. And there's that aspect that I think is just worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you. That's so true. That's kind of the thing about, it's like from where we sit right now, there's all kinds of things that look like issues. But like what Lisa's saying is, like, as we step through this together, and we're together a lot and looking at really deep things, I can't describe it. I don't know how it happens, but things just rearrange and things look different and people look different, and the things they're coming to us look different in ways we couldn't predict. And I don't know. It just is not, it doesn't end up being the way that our mind thinks it is right now as we sit on this webinar, and it's just kind of awesome how it works that way. I have a lot of people ask me, because I'm trained in the more traditional psychology, like, well, how do you convince, traditional psychologists of what you're sharing now? And like, I don't. Why would I do such a thing? I mean, there's only so many hours in a day, and I only have so much energy, and I have a lot of people want to hear this. So this doesn't even make sense to think we have to convince anyone. Okay, I'm just going to pop to those objections again really quick, in case there's some that that haven't come up. I don't know how to talk about, then I'll just speak to them really briefly. I don't know how to talk about this, me neither. And I don't think that gets a whole lot easier. I think what happens is we just keep talking about it. We keep working our way through and stumbling through it. And I think our expectation for being super articulate about this is what goes away, and you get really comfortable. It's like Lexi said, like, I coach complete strangers in front of the group. I have no clue. Sometimes those sessions don't go the way I wish they went, but it doesn't matter. We're just in an exploration. We're just in a dance, and there's no agenda, and there's no right way. So it just gets to be really relaxed. And when we're relaxed, we do, because your grounding is going to deepen to a point. I equate it a lot to like learning a language. It's like we get into this container and we become fluent in a new language. And that's what makes coaching easy. You come to just see things in this way. And then there's no strategy of like, how would I explain it? Or how do you talk about this? There is no, I don't know either. There is really, truly is no, how do you talk about it? There's just you seeing it, and then being with the person and responding to what comes up. It's just no different than if you were to learn Spanish and you don't know Spanish. Well, once you're fluent in Spanish, you can just sit down and talk with someone in Spanish. You don't know how you're doing it. It's just the words are just coming out of your mouth. And this really is like that in a really awesome way. Sometimes there are questions or kind of concerns about, and this kind of came up with Joanne's, about this isn't what people expect. I want to work with habits, and all of the habit people I know, they want steps or, that type of thing. And again, I think it's just a question of course, like people, but what people say they want is only what they know. It's just what they think they need to feel okay. What they really want is peace of mind and freedom. We know that. We can all agree on that. So we are delivering peace of mind and freedom. Do we do it through affirmations and tapping and mantras? No. But I mean, you can if that's what you do. But we do it in a deeper way, but we're giving them what they want. And the whole thing about, oh, they're going to expect this, and then I'm going to come in and do it this way. It's just not an issue in real life. It's an issue now as we think about it. It feels like it'll be an issue. Once we get into this, it just doesn't really come up that much. It's not a problem. I can't afford it. I've already invested in other training. And again, to that, I know some of the comments were around the payoff in this. And if you're in a place to run with the practice coaching, kind of like Missy said, saying yes to so much, to say to anything that comes your way, diving in, doing a bunch of free sessions, and then eventually offering those people paid packages if they want them. This training can for sure pay for itself in relatively short time. It definitely can. And that's just if you're looking for that kind of one-to-one financial payoff. I mean, I think the personal benefits of it and the being tapped into the bigger community and the longer term benefits, don't even know how to measure those. But if you're saying yes and you're giving free coaching sessions and you're out there saying, hey, come talk to me, it can pay off for sure. And sort of along the line, the last two, I'll kind of lump them together. Can I really make a living at this? And then I don't know what my niche would be. No one here asked that. Usually there's a lot of questions about that. Maybe you don't even know what a niche is, and you don't need to know, and you don't need one. So we talk about all this as we get more into the business side of things. But from here today, for any of us, how would we know how we can make a business at anything? It's like there's so many steps, but really like our kind of philosophy in a sense of like how we can build a business around this is based in service. It is based in, and by service, I mean having conversations and supporting people, doing free coaching sessions that later translate into paying clients. Sharing what you've seen and what you know. And for some of you, that will be in writing. For some of you, it'll be in videos. For others, it'll be on social media, but all from a stance, not of like, oh, hey, look at me, I'm a change coach and here's what I charge, but like, here's what I've seen about life. Here's how this issue looks to me. Here's what you can see about that issue. When we are out consistently helping people, supporting, sharing what we've seen, people listen, people pay attention, and we don't have to do that perfectly up front. That's kind of what the ongoing support is for. So like in our change coach community, people come and they say, we have it happening right now. Somebody says, oh, I've recorded 10 episodes of a podcast and I've been posting on Instagram for the last month. And some people have reached out, but no paying clients yet. Okay, well, let's look at that. Let's look at your content. What are you putting out? What can we maybe tweak here to fix it? So you don't have to figure this all out alone, but you also don't have to see that path right now. And I know for me, that was always a hard thing. I want to see the path and know how it's going to go. Really, it's just about being of service in a way that works for you. So there's nothing you have to do. If you are against writing, if you hate speaking, you hate social media, you don't have to do those things. We just want to help you find something that you do enjoy, that you are good at, and that you will do. And then you just kind of keep doing that. And the more you do that, the more it starts to hit a tipping point. All right. Any other questions? Let me put up, hold on, where am I? Oh. We're going to send this recording around, and in that email will be links to a lot of these links. So links to the full page with all the details, and which is also where you could put a deposit down to save your seat. A link to my Calendly. So if you want to have a call with me to talk about any of your concerns or anything, please feel free to use that, and we can do that. There's a link to the self-study, which again, I mentioned is just a good alternative. honestly, the live training in January is where it's at. You're going to get the most support. You're going to get certified. You're going to get the best of the best. But if that's absolutely not an option for you, or if you're just not sure enough to take that step, the self-study is a good in between. You can get a good feel for things that way. And then again, you can always upgrade and join us for the live training. And then this top link here is for the Change Coach Conversations, which you've probably seen those, but if not, it's a series. It's 12 videos of me talking about a lot of aspects about being a change coach, from how this is different to the business side to all kinds of things. So there's all kinds of stuff there for more information. If you have any questions, you can always just reach out to our support or schedule a call with me. And yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging on for 2 hours and for your interest in this. I love this so much. I love coaching this way. It just gets better and better all the time. Super grateful to the panel, Lisa, Lexi, and Missy. Thank you guys so much for being here. And remember that if you want the Build Your Business course, which most people will go through, December 5th is the deadline to put, and you don't have to fully pay, you just do a deposit. If you do a deposit by December 5th, which saves your seat in the January training, then you get the Build Your Business included in that. It's just such a great training. Personally and professionally, I really love to have you. And I see a question here, how many people are usually in it? Around 30. Give or take. So it's a small group. It's a very intimate group. You get lots of personal attention. All right. Thank you guys so much. Let me know what questions you have. And thanks so much for being here. Bye, everyone.